All right, now we are on the very last line of page 89. How lucky those Danaans were who perished on Troy's wide seaboard, serving the Atridae. Would God I too had died there, met my end that time the Trojans made so many casts at me when I stood by Achilles after death. I should have had a soldier's burial and praise from the Achaeans, not this choking waiting for me at sea, unmarked and lonely. So he's really regretting that he's going to die at sea. That's what he thinks is going to happen, instead of dying in battle where the Achaeans would have sung his praises. Now nobody knows anything about him. Okay, next line. A great wave drove at him with toppling crest, spinning him round in one tremendous blow, and he went plunging overboard, the oar half wrenched from his grip. A gust that came on howling at the same instant broke his mast in two, hurling his yard and sail far out to leeward. Now the big wave a long time kept him under, helpless to surface, held by tons of water, tangled too by the sea cloak of Calypso. Long until he came up spouting brine, with streamlets gushing from his head and beard, but still bethought him, half drowned as he was, to flounder for the boat and get a handhold into the bilge to crouch there, foiling death. So he's thrown overboard, he's under the water for a long time. He finally comes up, he's spitting out seawater, and he has the presence of mind to get back over to whatever of his ship remains and hold on and kind of crouch there, and the wood is going to help him stay afloat. Across the foaming water to and fro, the boat careered like a ball of tumbleweed, blown on the autumn plains, but intact still. So the winds drove this wreck over the deep, east wind and north wind, then south wind and west, coursing each in turn to the brutal Harry. But Ino saw him. Ino, Cadmus's daughter, slim-legged, lovely, once an earthling girl, now in the seas a Nereid, Leucothea. Touched by Odysseus's painful buffeting, she broke the surface like a diving bird to rest upon the tossing raft and say, all right, hold on. So this was Ino, but then she is transformed into a sea nymph, a Nereid is the name for it. And so her name then is Leucothea. And so she takes pity on Odysseus and wants to save her. I suppose the other thing I should say is Cadmus's daughter. Oh, forlorn man, I wonder why the earth-shaker Lord Poseidon holds this fearful grudge, father of all your woes. He will not drown you, though, despite his rage. You seem clear-headed still. Do what I tell you. Shed that cloak, let the gale take your craft, and swim for it. Swim hard to get ashore upon Scheria yonder, where it is fated that you find a shelter. Here, make my veil your sash. It is not mortal. You cannot now be drowned or suffer harm. Only the instant you lay hold of earth, discard it, cast it far, far out from shore, in the wine dark sea again, and turn away. So she's kind of funny. She sits on the raft and she says to him, oh, you must have gotten Poseidon mad, but don't worry, he's not going to kill you. Take off that cloak from Calypso, let go of your craft, and just swim for it. And here, have my veil, and that's going to keep you alive because it's from an immortal. Okay, after she had bestowed her veil, the Nereid dove like a gull to windward, where a dark waveside closed over her whiteness. But in perplexity, Odysseus said to himself, his great heart laboring, oh, damned confusion, can this be a ruse to trick me from the boat for some god's pleasure? No, I'll not swim. With my own eyes I saw how far the land lies, that she called my shelter. Better to do the wise thing as I see it. While this poor planking holds, I stay aboard. I may ride out the pounding of the storm, or if she cracks up, take to the water then. I cannot think it through a better way. So he's mistrustful, and he has good reason to be. The gods have kind of played with him back and forth, sometimes helping, sometimes hurting him. And so he thinks it's safer just to hang on to the raft and do that as long as possible. But even while he pondered and decided, the god of earthquake heaved a wave against him high as a roof tree and of awful gloom. A gust of wind hitting a pile of chaff will scatter all the parched stuff far and wide. Just so, when this gigantic billow struck, the board's big timbers flew apart. Another long simile there, comparing the boat being struck by the wave to chaff in the wind, really flying out. Odysseus clung to a single beam like a jockey riding, meanwhile stripping Calypso's cloak away. So he's riding on the beam like someone might ride a horse. Then he slung around his chest the veil of Ino and plunged headfirst into the sea. His hands went out to stroke, and he gave a swimmer's kick. But the strong earth shaker had him under his eye and nodded as he said, go on, wander the high seas this way, take your blows before you join that race the gods have nurtured. Nor will you grumble even then, I think, for want of trouble. Whipping his glossy team, he rode off to his glorious home at Aegae. But Zeus's daughter Athena countered him. She checked the course of all the winds but one, commanding them, be quiet and go to sleep. Then sent a long swell running under a norther to bear the prince Odysseus back from danger to join the Phaeacians, people of the sea. So Poseidon stuck around long enough to see that it looked like Odysseus was going to die in the sea. He didn't know about the veil. And then Athena came along. She stopped all the winds except for one, which was supposed to guide Odysseus to the shore of the Phaeacians. And then that's the end of that little scene. Page 92, the next chunk here. 2 nights, 2 days in the solid deep sea swell he drifted. So that means we're at 19 days. He drifted many times awaiting death until with shining ringlets in the east, the dawn confirmed a 3rd day, breaking clear over a high and windless sea, and mounting a rolling wave, he caught a glimpse of land. What a dear, welcome thing life seems to children, whose father in the extremity recovers after some weakening and malignant illness. His pains are gone, the gods have delivered him. So dear and welcome to Odysseus, the sight of land, of woodland on that morning. It made him swim again to get a foothold on solid ground. But when he came in earshot, he heard the trampling roar of sea on rock, where combers rising shoreward thudded down on the sucking ebb, all sheeted with salt foam. Here were no coves or harborage or shelter, only steep headlands, rock-fallen reefs and crags. Odysseus's knees grew slack, his heart faint, a heaviness came over him, and he said, a cruel turn this. So it's the 3rd day, he gets to land, he's within sight of it, but instead of having a beach or a harbor, someplace where he can go to shore, it's just these crags, these rock cliffs. There's not anything that's going to allow him to get onto the land easily. Never had I thought to see this land, but Zeus has let me see it, and let me too traverse the western ocean, only to find no exit from these breakers. Here are sharp rocks offshore, and the sea is a smother rushing around them, rock face rising sheer from deep water. Nowhere could I stand up on my 2 feet and fight free of the welter. No matter how I try it, the surf may throw me against the cliffside. No good fighting there. If I swim down the mast outside the breakers, I may find shelving shore and quiet water. But what if another gale comes on to blow? Then I go cursing out to sea once more, or then again some sharp of Amphitrite may hunt me, sent by the genius of the deep. I know how he who makes earth tremble hates me. Amphitrite is Poseidon's wife, and she actually breeds the monsters of the deep, supposedly. So she's the one who creates them. Like some people raise rabbits or chickens, she raises sea monsters. So he's looking at how all the waves just go crashing up against the rocks. And he figures if this is where he's going to try to land, he's going to be thrown up against the rock and destroyed. And so that's another place to pause.